It is OG After Dark. I'm Joe Giglio. That is not Joe Ovius. I do wish he was here, though, because Roy Cooper, we've got a lot to get into after the Hurricanes' 5-2 win over the New Jersey Devils in Game 4 to take a commanding 3-1 series lead. They'll be back here on Tuesday, presumably to close out the New Jersey Devils, but the game itself was not without incident. Second period, 15:41 left. Freddie Andersen gets basically run into by Timo Meier. I'm not really sure there's any other way to put it. He gets knocked out of the game. Obviously, Rod Brindamore wasn't that happy about it. I'm assuming Freddie Andersen wasn't either, given the way that he was playing, but just your initial reaction to seeing the collision between Meier and Andersen, and maybe like many Canes fans, kind of holding your breath a little bit, I'm guessing, up there in Boston.
Well, I'm so happy to get this win tonight, Joe. And yeah, Anderson has been in the zone. This being his fourth game, just even with the loss on Friday, what a brick wall he has been. He's made some miraculous saves, and I commend the Canes for keeping their focus and working hard, because I'm ready to go all rollerball on Meier right now. I mean, seriously, this guy, almost every play, there's something going on. And, his skates were going straight into the crease. And that last dip of a shoulder, he's such a big guy. And when you're a goalie and you're a bit defenseless there, it was completely uncalled for. Should have been at least a minor. I don't know why it wasn't. So now the referees are sending a signal that, hey, it's okay to do that now. And that's not good. It's not good for the game. A number of goalies are getting hurt out there. Obviously, things are ratcheted up in the playoffs. Teams are getting the hits almost on every play. So the referees need to be a little tighter in the crease, I think.
All right, let's watch the play. Obviously, the game was on multiple networks. NHL on TNT posted the clip. Listen, it's hard to say. Well, I mean, I heard some of the announcers. I was watching the national version of the broadcast today, and I heard them like, well, he wasn't trying to intentionally hurt him. And I'm like, well, why else do you think he was going into the crease if not to, take a run at him? I mean, that's the part I didn't quite understand. As you mentioned, Meier has been somewhat of a nuisance in this series, and
a nuisance,
quite frankly, a not very clean nuisance, a dirty nuisance. So let's watch that play, and then I had to go into old Twitter mode of taking up you'll see it. The Rod's reaction to the call, then the non-call or the overturn was priceless, absolutely priceless. So let's go first. Let's watch the play for anyone who missed it. I somehow doubt you're on this podcast right now and didn't see it, but let's watch it anyway. So that first view there is kind of there. You see it hits him in the contact in the head. Then he falls back. The leg's kind of caught under him too. So I do wonder, Coop, and you see him come off the ice. Do we think this is more of the concussion type injury while we're here speculating with our sideline Netflix medical degrees, or do we think maybe there was something more than the leg kind of getting caught under him? What was your initial thought?
Well, first, the view from the top shows there was a lot of space between Svechnikov and Meier there, and he was not pushed.
No, I agree.
Into Andersen at all. So let's just say that. I don't know what to hope for. In basketball and football, we know. In hockey, we don't.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating about this game. But in any event, I know that Andersen is injury prone, and often when he has to leave a game, he's not back by the next game. The great thing is that Kochetkov stepped in, let in an easy goal that Andersen would have stopped on that goal number 2. But then he settled in and did a great job. I hope he's okay. I hope Andersen can come back Tuesday, but nobody knows. You're the man with the inside info.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to start making some calls.
There you go. I think you might have more success on this front than me, but Luke DeCock from the News and Observer potentially too. But I want to play Rod's reaction before I bring Luke on, and Luke can probably add some clarity to this. But I think here's what I think, just understanding from watching the television version, and then in between periods, I drove down here and heard Mike explain it a little bit and Adam explain it a little bit. By not calling the initial goalie interference, they were only able to call for a 5-minute major that was able to be reviewed. And then once they reviewed it and realized, in their opinion, it wasn't egregious contact or to the head, directly to the head, or whatever it is, their standard, they waived off the 5-minute major. So
they couldn't call the minor then,
right? Because it was
upon review.
But that's my understanding, and Luke can add some clarity. Right. But before we bring Luke on, I want to show this video of Rod, because this GIF could just last forever. I'll have to get OVS to help me turn it into a GIF, but this thing will last forever. Even as the governor, tell me your wife has given you that second eye.
Yeah, he was giving that gum a workout, even more so than usual.
All right, let's bring on the
frustration there, and seeing his goalie, who's playing so well, go down, that adds to the frustration of the moment for sure.
And as a longtime Canes fan, as a longtime Canes fan, Rod cannot wrap his brain around what is goalie interference and what is not.
Well, none of us can, apparently. I mean, it's my buddy Tripp's about 50-50 on his predictions when he's there, and it's just a tough call. Maybe they're going to have to sit down the off season and really go over some things and make some decisions about more detail on the rule.
All right, Luke, by the letter of the law, do I have that right? If they don't call the 2-minuter on the ice, then they can't go back and make it one. All they can do is either hold up the 5-minute or say it's no 5-minute major.
Yeah. Now Rod's argument is, why didn't you call the initial 2-minute penalty? The referee's argument, apparently, hello fellows, by the way, happy before.
Hi, Luke.
Their original interpretation was that he got pushed into him by Svechnikov, and therefore the contact is incidental. And then they called the major so they could review it, basically, like, did we really screw this one up? And here's the thing, the 5-minute major sort of requires some kind of intent. You're basically going to have to call a match penalty for a goaltender interference there. I'm not even sure you can, but the 5-minute penalty basically says it's a hit to the head. There's some sort of major infraction there. And the reality is, we know he wasn't pushed. That much was clear. But I don't think Timo Meier is going in there intending to knock Freddie Andersen into next week. I think he's going in there intending to give him a little bit of a shove, and then he sort of doesn't realize, like the rest of us, that Freddie sometimes, is sort of, kind of made out of Legos sometimes. So, whatever happened there, I also think there's some contact to the head. That contact does strike me as incidental. So I don't think it's a 5-minute major. It should have been 2 minutes for sure. It's a dirty play for sure. But I don't think Joe, that I was the one saying I don't remember Timo Meier being this dirty in 2023 after game 3. He's been a dirty player throughout the series. I don't know that that's even his dirtiest play of the series. It just sort of had the worst consequences, either because he made contact with Andersen's head, and that's why he goes down the way he did, or he got him, as you said a second ago, twisted, and he fell backward on something and hurt it. So it's a bad play. It should have been a 2-minute penalty. I don't have a problem with them not calling that a major. I think the consequences were sort of worse than the action or the intent. But obviously, it's the last thing the Hurricanes wanted to see. You'd almost rather lose that game than see Freddie Andersen leave it.
Coop was saying the Devils' next goal, which was by Meier, was a bad goal for Kochetkov. I'd argue it was a bad goal for Brent Burns. I'm watching my language today because A, I haven't been drinking, and B, we have a dignitary joining us. But Brent Burns, buddy, what are you doing? Like, let's clear the puck after a faceoff win, please.
Yeah, no, there's a lot that went wrong there, especially when you have a new goalie in the crease. But I thought Tripp on the Hurricanes broadcast did do a really good breakdown of why it's such a bad goal, because Kochetkov is stuck between sort of standing up and playing it that way and going down and playing it that way. And he's got his stick off the ice and both his legs are off the ice. It's just, there's nothing about the way Kochetkov played it that's the way that you're supposed to play it. So, but I think, it was a wake-up call for him. It's not the best way to get into a game, but it got him into the game. And, I thought he was really good after that. Made a couple big saves, gave him a chance to win the game, which they did in the third period. So, and Brent Burns otherwise in that game, very, very good. And especially in the third period. So he certainly atoned for that error, as did Kochetkov. But it's certainly a tough play for Kochetkov coming in cold and then sort of probably not being in exactly the right frame of mind he needed to be in on that shot.
From one Russian to another, Coop. What did you think of Svechnikov? Luke and I have our opinions of number 37, but I did expect him to get a boost up there with Aho. So Rod's only a game behind me. So I'm glad he moved him up. But what did you think of Svech? And obviously the early goal in the first and the early goal in the second period.
Obviously, the line change up helped everybody, I think. And it was just time to do it. You've been waiting for him to break out. You've been waiting for him to make a big goal. I just didn't expect 3 of them. But I think that he's ready to play now. He's locked in, and that's exciting. I think Blake has been playing well all along. And Luke, I appreciate your analysis on the major and the intent. There ought to be a way for referees, as they're reviewing that, to think back the last few games and presume intent. So I mentioned earlier to Joe that I thought the Canes did a great job not really trying to take Meyer out and continue their focus, because they have to be angry about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they did. I thought, it was interesting that Sheldon Keefe had said that he didn't think the Hurricanes were a very physical team. I thought they were tremendously physical in game 1, maybe not in game 3, but I thought they responded to the Meyer thing not necessarily the way I would have, because I would have made that guy, I'm not prone to maybe flying off the handle a little bit. I would have made him eat his lunch through a straw, but the Hurricanes did it the right way, which is, Jordan Martinook leveling Andre Palat. Dmitry Orlov had a big hit. Stankoven had a hit. There were a bunch of guys who just went out and took the body. And there's no question that after that play, the Hurricanes were the more physical team in the game. Somebody in the end, I missed the license plate, leveled Eric Halla, which of course we all love to see. So that's the way you want to, sort of get even. And then Taylor Hall goes sliding into Markstrom at the end, which is obviously not any intent. He gets tripped up and goes sliding in, but it's a dangerous position, and Markstrom was okay, but those plays do happen. You just, when they're avoidable, and I don't think there's any doubt that Meyer's contact with Andersen was avoidable. You certainly don't want to see that. I think Svechnikov, Rod Brind'Amour had to do something. Game 3, especially the third period, was so atypical for the Hurricanes. They never got to their game. They never got their forecheck going. They never possessed the puck. So what do? You put in Mark Jankowski. That was a no-brainer. Just gives you a little more two-way play on the road. And then, you move Svech around, you move Jarvis around, you move Carrier around. And it worked. It just sort of, everybody gets back to doing what they're supposed to do. And in this case, it really unlocks Svechnikov. Once again, Hurricanes didn't need Jake Gensel. They already have an empty net specialist. But it's the other 2 goals that really were the, for me with Svech, the kind of plays that he can make and has to make for the Hurricanes if they're going to be successful. That's really, I think, from a Hurricanes perspective, what they wanted to see. And that's probably the most important thing on the positive side of the ledger to come out of this game. I also thought this is sort of a weird one, but early on, I thought the Hurricanes did a better job of handling what looked like really bad ice. There was a big concert in the Prudential Center last night. Then you have a short turnaround to a 3:30 game. I don't know if that's because they're used to it more often, with all the basketball changeovers and whatever. But I thought that they were one of the reasons they were better in the first period. I thought that they adapted to that really well, and that maybe helped them play their game, right? They're going to chip it in. They're not going to make fancy plays. They're going to get it deep and go after it. And this game, unlike game 3, they really took advantage of Cholowski and Nemec and the other defensemen who have come into the lineup. They really force those guys to make plays, and they benefit from it.
I mentioned to Joe this morning that Jankowski, I was surprised that he didn't start the series with the scoring tear that he had been on, but I know everybody was healthy, so Rod decided to go another way. But I think he made a difference today too. I think he clanged one off the post, and really that the fourth line I thought played pretty well tonight.
Yeah,
Jank and Stank together. Jank and Stank with Robinson. I like the way Jankowski plays. I know we saw him, as Coop pointed out, score 7 goals in 6 games or whatever the heck it was when he first got here. But I just like the way he plays, like the cut of his jib. The one time I asked him about the Dowd from Washington, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know why that guy was so mad at me." And we're going to see it again. We'll talk about it again, I'm sure, in a week or so here, or within a week. But I just like I like the way that he is. I kind of like the way that he carries himself. Before we get to 2 statistical updates,
I like the turtleneck. I like the turtleneck.
The turtleneck is good, and more guys should wear the neck guards. It's just my personal opinion. I do want to say this on the numbers. The only line tonight that was better 5-on-5 possession-wise than the Jankowski line was Blake Aho and Svechnikov, who are obviously terrific. So that was the Hurricanes' second best line in terms of possession. And I get why Rod Brindamore started with Jack Roslovic. He's a 20-goal scorer. You're at home. He's on the second power play unit, which Marco Jankkinen is not. But I think he should have been in for game 3. That's Rod. I'm not messing with the winning lineup, but now you have a chance to get him in. I thought he added something tonight, that line for sure. So sorry to cut you off there, Joe.
No, before we get to 2 statistical updates that we both have interest in, I want to talk about Slavin just a little bit.
Oh my God.
I pointed out anyway, it was like an out-of-body experience seeing Bratt go by him in game 3 the way that he did. And we all know people. We all know competitors, or we are all competitors ourselves. I bet you Slavin, who's like the most honest to goodness gracious guy there is on the planet, I bet you he didn't sleep. Because when you make a play like that, you can make 100 good plays. And he's made 1,000 this season. But I promise you, after the end of this year, he'll be like, one time in New Jersey in game 3 when Bratt went around me, what an unbelievable individual effort on his goal in the first period, where Mike Maniscalco likes to say good stick, and Trip Tracy likes to say good stick. Coop, I imagine that as a guy from the Northern Nash area, you're like, good stick. What the heck does that mean? Right?
Come on, I know now.
But now you do. I'm saying, but out of context, 95, Coop, we were like, good stick. What?
It's like a good poke with the basketball. I mean, I think Slavin woke up this morning and said, "By God, I've got to do something spectacular today." And did he ever answer that call? Wow! With that takeaway and that precision goal was extraordinary, I thought.
Yeah, it was amazing. Luke, and why does it always seem to be Ovius is better at these than I am? I call them the gemstones, but they're not. It's from the Marvel movies. They move them in, they move them out. There's a timeline. It always seems to be a former Kane, a future Kane, a past Kane. If we go back to the bubble when Aho completely undressed Tony DeAngelo, Nason. Of course it was Nason. That's Slavin,
right? Yeah.
Takes the play around. It always seems to be a Canes on Canes crime in someone's timeline somewhere. Just what did you think of that play, Luke, and Slavin's kind of response? I know it wasn't a bad game in game 3, but I'm sure he was stewing over the Devils' second goal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you want to go out and do something, right? You want to go out and be like, I'm making up for it. I thought the 2 things about it were, one, just, the joke I make sometimes when he's playing against like McDavid or Draisaitl or whoever. It's like 2 men go in and Jacob Slavin comes out with the puck. And it was one of those, but it was like in front of everybody and in a really weird position on the ice. And Stefan Nason still doesn't know where he went. It's like, where'd he go? Where'd who go? And then Slavin to have the presence of mind from a tight angle to find that spot over Markstrom's right shoulder, which, I'll give Tripp credit. He's been hammering that for this entire series. You can beat Markstrom high. In fact, you're probably only going to beat Markstrom high. And the Hurricanes have done a good job of that at times. And at other times, there's been the sort of fire it into his belly mentality that we've seen from this team before. I thought there was a Taylor Hall shot on the power play where he had a lot of different areas of net to look at, and he ended up blasting it right in the middle of Markstrom. But Slavin there, I mean, that's a very small window, but it is a window, and you have to identify it. You have to be thinking about it. That's good scouting. That's good video. And then you have to have the skill to pull it off, which we don't think of Slavin as being this sharp shooting pinpoint. I mean, he's got it in his locker. It just doesn't come out very often. But that was a combination of sort of the best of Slavin defensively, and then what he can do offensively when he sees the moment and has the chance.
Coop, you're with two newspaper guys who love numbers. So we had two of them. You ready? Luke is the one who got the Jordan Martinook numbers right. So now here we are, 9 games against the Devils in the playoffs. Luke, 5 goals.
Yeah,
got the devil inside him. The devil's inside him. Oh my gosh!
So 5 and 9 games against the Devils, 4 and 56 games against everybody else.
Yeah, I mean he's 156 point player against the Devils in the playoffs. So, why can't you make the whole plane out of Jordan Martinook against the Devils? I don't know. But it's weird. And he really is, does not like talking about it at this point because it sort of implies, why can't you do it against everybody else? But the Hurricanes will certainly take it. They needed something from him. But I thought, he had a couple big hits. He had a couple nice plays with the puck. And then obviously on that goal, he's in the right place. In the dirty areas, right? Oh, we need to get in front. We need to get to all those cliches. That's what it looks like when you actually do it. So when Burns puts the puck on net, you have a deflection, you have a rebound, you got all kinds of things going on there that lead to the goal. And what a huge goal, just a massive goal because everybody was sort of squeaky bum time there from the whole time it got to 3-2 until Martinook scored. So sometimes things click for different dudes. I mean, is there any rhyme, reason, or logic to the fact that Marty Brodeur broke more sticks and got pulled in more games against the Hurricanes than any other team in a Hall of Fame career? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know who hates the Hurricanes more, Marty Brodeur or Lou Lamoriello, but they could have a conversation about it.
The other stat, the double OT, it had been 7, Luke. I missed my Vinny.
Yeah, that's right.
Rangers.
Put up the chart.
Put up the chart. It's been 7. But they're now 4 and 3 after those games under Rod, which I think we could draw more of a conclusion from that than we can from them losing than any kind of common thread in the 7 losses, right? I mean, this just kind of speaks to the resiliency of the Hurricanes and part of the reason, Coop, that you kind of fell in love with this team, I suspect.
Well, I was starting to smell an overtime here this afternoon when it was 3-2 and we were dragging. I said, "Oh my God, not again! We're going to have to test. We're going to have to test that number. Maybe we can break that streak." That's the kind of hope that I had. Yeah, it's going to go into overtime, but this time we're going to have the overtime number. But they avoided it because they pulled together and they played like they can play. That's what I wanted to see, and that's what happened for sure.
Crazy difference between those 2 third periods with the game on the line. I think game 3 is one of the worst periods that the third period of game 3, one of the worst periods the Hurricanes have played of the season at the worst possible time. Now, give the Devils credit. They played really well then. But I think what we saw in games 1 and 2 and what we saw again tonight is when the Hurricanes are on their game, the Devils at their best can't match that. So the Hurricanes have to give the Devils an opportunity to get to their best game. Saw a little of that in the second period tonight. Obviously, the goalies, the immediate sort of aftermath of Freddie coming out. I think the Hurricanes were a little bit shocked, but the third period is back to the way they have to play. And they have to keep doing that.
Can't you talk about PK too, Joe? When you're talking stats, let's talk about PK.
Oh, Luke and I have already tried to wrap our brains around the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes are in a series now where they scored again on the power play. And they're the team just absolutely busting it on the power play. And the team they're playing cannot, for the life of them, score on their power play.
And so they were 3rd in the league in the regular season.
It'd be a little different.
Hughes, both
Hughes brothers help with that a little bit, for sure. But hey, Kochetkov, stopped the last 13 shots he faced. That's pretty good, especially given how bad the goal was. I mean, that could shatter you. We don't want Ruslan Kayazev coming into a playoff game under any circumstances. Although that's really, if you think back, that's kind of how Kochetkov got into his stick swinging scrum with Brad Marchand. He's kind of the emergency goalie.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting hurt. In comes the crazy Russian rookie, and Svech is translating for him, and he's, picking fights with entire benches and slashing Brad Marchand. I mean, it's weird stuff happens in the playoffs, especially against the Devils.
Sometimes for an athlete, when expectations are lower, you can excel. It gives you more confidence. And I think that everybody's expectations were lowered when he went into the game. This guy's not going to be Andersen. And he showed quickly that he wasn't. But then he settled in and was very comfortable. I feel pretty confident. I have no information on Andersen, but I feel pretty confident that he's going to have to play on Tuesday night. And he needs to be ready because I don't want to go back to New Jersey.
Okay, we'll spin this one forward then, because it's 3-1 now in the series. If Freddie, let's use some air quotes here, because I'm not trying to be caveman troglodyte here, but let's just say if it is a head injury, I don't know, Coop. I say you're good enough to beat the Devils at home with Kochetkov. You play Kochetkov on Tuesday, and you try to get Freddie ready for Washington. I think the Canes will win on Tuesday as well. The Devils' last hurrah was Game 3. I mean, actually, the Devils' last hurrah was the second period when they knocked Freddie out.
Yeah,
that was really their only chance, right?
I'll go a step farther, Joe. I'll go a step farther. I'll say even if Freddie's healthy, Kochetkov is the play for Game
Tuesday.
5.
Okay.
Yes. Because I think the way he played at the end, he got in a groove. Let's give Freddie some time. If he's okay, you can always bring him back in Game 6. And just to your point, I want to pump your brakes a little bit on this one, because it's get ready for the Habs in the next series.
Oh, okay. All right. You've been on that.
Devils, Canadians is a classic Hurricanes postseason.
That is that.
We've all been through it.
You're right. And then Toronto would have to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. That we don't want to see Paul Maurice. We'd rather see the Leafs take care of the Panthers, who I'm afraid are running entirely too hot for everyone. I love the way that the Hurricanes played in the first period of this game, Luke. To your point, I think you're mixing up the third period from yesterday, from Game 3, with the first period of overtime. They were awful in the first period of overtime.
Maybe.
For Andersen.
I love the way that they responded in this game twice, right? So you have the loss in double overtime, which, mortal teams usually lose some of those long games, and they just want to, go away a little bit. I was starting to get Nashville series vibes. I don't know what your memories are of that Nashville series. Mine was they were a completely inferior team with a goalie. And the juice was loose. Juicy Soros in that game, in that series, was excellent. Markstrom was giving me those vibes until tonight, and I think that's where that Svech goal early, I think, really kind of was like, all right, dude, you need to turn back into a pumpkin. Because I could be wrong, but has Markstrom ever been this good in the playoffs?
Yeah, he's a good goalie. I mean, he's a quality. This is not the Devils goalie trio rotation of 2023, where there were three random dudes wearing goalie gear on their way from Hobby's Deli to play for the Devils. He's a legit number one NHL goalie. And you got to work hard to beat him. And the Hurricanes have shown you can beat him high. He's a guy who he's a big dude, but he likes to go down and play that way. And he'll leave opening signs. Slavin found him. Hurricanes have found him throughout the series. Slavin's probably the most glaring example to date. But you're going to have to work hard to beat him. But the Hurricanes also, look, we talked about this going into Game 3. They've been the better team physically overall. They have a skill advantage. They have a special teams advantage. They had, until halfway through this game, a goaltending advantage. We'll see how that plays out. This is not a series that they should let drag on. You've got a chance to put the Devils away in Game 5. You got to go do it. This is where you get to you're not just trying to win one game. You're not just trying to win 4 games. A team like this has to have in the back of its mind, how do we get to 16? At least how do we get to 12? Let's get over that hurdle. And getting out of the series early, like they did against the Islanders last year, really important.
All right, Coop. I'm gonna make you do this with us. Luke's background and career is newspapers. Mine, after leaving the newspaper, I've learned that it's okay to look at the comments. It's okay. And newspapers, never. For you as governor, did you ever look at the comments on anything social or anything else?
Rarely.
Rarely.
It's generally not recommended.
It's generally not, but usually the YouTubes is a safe space. So let's see what we can come up with here. We'll start with Ryan, subtitled "Your best guys have to be your best guys." Yes,
it's a game of runs.
It is a game, and it was a game of runs. Our guy Mike Jones, someone check on PK Subban. He's done this after every game or every Canes win so far this year. So,
PK called me out one time.
What?
Yeah.
He did over the
one of my late night posts. I posted one to right after this game as well, but I usually like to have fun with some other guy on another team. So it was fun to get called out by PK.
Nice. You clapping back on people or no?
Nah, I don't do that.
Also a part of politics, right? You're so you could say something bad about Duke not winning the national championship now, by the way.
You know, it's been what, 30 minutes? It's the first mention of Duke that I heard from you. Something like that.
Luke knows I'm the most stubborn person on the planet. Luke also knows I enjoy kind of breaking a coach or an AD or someone of that ilk. So a commissioner, but Luke, I cannot get Cooper to break on this Duke thing and his true thoughts about the.
Well, you know, I'm up here in Boston now. I'm teaching a class at Harvard at the School of Public Health for the semester, and having a great time. But I did head over to the Garden and saw the Hurricanes play in that awful run of one of those end of regular season losses that we had. It was something like 4-1 or 5-1.
Yeah.
Bad year for the Bruins, but it was great fun to be in the DD Garden to see the Hurricanes play.
You need to stop with that terrible Boston accent.
I'm trying.
You're not winning any votes from anybody up there. So that's.
Also went to the Boston Marathon. I've been to a Red Sox game and also been to a Celtics game. So I have
who on the Red Sox?
Passed the hat trick +1 here with sporting events in Boston.
I really want you to come back on this program, so I'm not going to mention that person right there who has turned your alma mater into his personal ATM machine. I'm not gonna mention that right now. We're gonna get back into the comments now that Luke is back here.
Okay.
Coop, see, people are excited. There's your guy Jeremy. Of course, it's Roy. See, people are excited. More Coop. All right. Sinister Prime Minister of North Carolina hockey, the Governor Roy Coops. Yes. See, people are excited. They want to know though, when does Cooper get his own Canes column for OG fans? I mean, there's an open invitation. Oh, see, now people are just taunting me. Look at this. Curse, Joe. Curse. I almost did with that guy, but no, I won't. I won't do it. Come on, you people. Curse.
Well, you told me that when I came onto your show that you would drink and swear less.
Oh, I'm not drinking, so we're definitely there. And I have not I'm not cursed yet, so we'll see. The resilience shown by the Canes after the second period is exactly what bringing the Storm is all about. Yeah, I agree. I thought that was good to see. It's too bad Rantanen didn't work out, but Stank and Jank were a hell of a get. Yeah, I mean, Luke, I know we're gonna do this for all of the
narrative.
Yeah, but what we get fourth line. You mentioned second best for the team in puck possession. I know the players have probably moved past all that. Maybe I don't know, but I don't know. I feel like Eric Tulsky. Speaking of being up at Harvard, there, Coop Tulsky, the Harvard grad. I feel like he made the best of a difficult situation.
Yeah. All right. So for sure. And look, when you have a guy who doesn't want to be here, and by the end, it was clear that Mikko Rantanen had zero interest in being here or playing for the Hurricanes or being on the ice here. I mean, his last home game with the team the night for the trade deadline was so unbelievably bad. They basically had to trade him at that point. Because, even if you'd gone into that game saying, well, he can help us in the playoffs. Let's see how it goes. If he becomes a rental, it's not like we were keeping Marty Natchez anyway. You could talk yourself into that. And then he played his way right out of it. So to get Logan Stankoven, I mean, that's a guy who fits the way they play. I mean, he's a little bit more of a, there's a lot of Logan Stankovens out there, but you need to get him and draft him. That was kind of a win because he's a guy who can help you now. The fact that it took so long to flip Rantanen and they couldn't flip the 2 first-round picks they got from Dallas for immediate help, that really hurts. That's the one part of this that's like, if you had another 24 hours, you could have gone into the deadline, maybe flipped one of those picks for another guy who could help you. But with Nikishin coming in, they didn't really need depth on defense. They've got this other kid, Nystrom, who's a good player. So they have some depth that guys we haven't seen yet. So they didn't really need to flip it for a defensive depth. And then, nobody was thinking about Mark Jankowski. This is your Jack Drury replacement. And then he comes in and, as I said, turns into Marco Jankkinen. He's everything that Mikko Rantanen was supposed to be from a goal scoring perspective. He's your Jack Drury replacement. It turns out to be great. The thing about it is, in the end, when you look at the way the Hurricanes play, and with the benefit now of having all this in the rearview mirror, was Mikko Rantanen ever going to be a fit here? Even if he loved it here, even if he was driving down to Pinehurst every day and loved every second of it.
And his girlfriend.
What's that?
And his girlfriend.
Well, we'll punt on that for now. But he needs to have the puck. He needs to move east-west. He's not a guy who fits what they do on the power play necessarily. I think having seen him here, he never clicked with the way they want to play. And more importantly, he never clicked with the way they have to play to be successful. This is not a team with a Nathan McKinnon. This is not a team with a Leon Draisaitl or a Connor McDavid or even a Cale Makar. To play on the Carolina Hurricanes, and Logan Stankoven figured this out immediately. There is a way you have to play because everyone else is playing that way. And when you start to go do your own thing, everything falls apart. We saw that with Evgeny Kuznetsov, right? Great at certain times, but then in the playoffs, he's off dipsy doodling, doing his own thing, going different directions. It didn't work. And he ends up out of the lineup by the end of it. So you've got to have guys who are willing to do what you do as a team to be successful. So that brings us back to the bigger meta argument of, are the Hurricanes a team set up to win with a big star who has to do things his own way? I think if you get one who's a center, then you can kind of modify around it. But for a winger coming in the middle of the season, playing the way he plays, I think we can say in retrospect, it was never a good fit, hockey-wise, personality-wise, player-wise. And so to get out of it and get a guy who helps you and then get some future help in the 2 first-round picks is a pretty good save. And then you lose Jack Drury, you replace him with Jankowski. You lose Marty Necas, but you're going to move on from him at some point anyway. We all know that. So it's not a huge loss, and it's not like he's been tearing the world up in Denver. So that's my grand philosophical unifying theory of the Rantanen trade. They did the best they could with it, and it probably wasn't going to work anyway.
I think if you take Rantanen out of the equation, which is what you have to do, I think Tulsky won the trade. If you look at those last 10 regular season games that Rantanen played, from my amateur observation, I think you're exactly right, Luke, that he just wasn't a fit. People that I've talked to around the team said, great guy, would have loved to have had him, but he wasn't a fit. And another player that I talked with in depth at the ACC basketball tournament said that Marty just wasn't the player to fit into the Carolina system. As much as I love to watch Marty play, and as entertaining and as fast as he was, I think the guys that we have now, plus the draft picks that were involved in this, just makes it a win at the end of the day for Tulsky and the Canes. Yeah, if we had some more time, we maybe could have turned that other trade, but I like where we are right now.
Yeah.
This
and part of it is
grinded out team, playoff team, I hope.
The player has to be willing to meet you halfway. Is right. Jackson Blake necessarily a guy who's a perfect fit in Carolina's system the way he played in college? He's a high skill guy, he's fast, but he likes to have the puck on his stick too. But he got it like when he was here last year. Like it clicked with him, and he's like, oh, if I want to be here, this is how I have to play. And guess what? It happens to be a great way for him to play. I don't think it was a huge adjustment for him, but for a high skill guy like that, it is an adjustment. And that's one of the reasons why he was able to bump his way up the lineup and end up playing on the top line to start the playoffs. It's pretty remarkable for a guy not many people were talking about 18 months ago.
Sort of came out of nowhere.
All right, but we're going to get out of here, I promise, but we have to hit a few more comments. Luke, for you, Matthew Brown, I hope Nikishin sees some ice time eventually.
Is
I
he?
mean, honestly, here's the thing about it, though. It's actually better for the Hurricanes probably if he doesn't.
I know.
I'm just saying. Everyone wants to see.
I was poking you on that one. All right, Coop. I don't think you're the vindictive type. I do know you could call the current governor, though, Governor Cooper. Any chance you could ban Timo Meyer from stepping foot in the state of North Carolina?
We'll have to get working on that right now. No. I want him to come back to Raleigh one more time. I want to see some skates leaving the ice, and as I mentioned earlier to you, I'd love to see us go all rollerball on Meyer. When you can surpass Holla as the person that the fans are focused on, you've really earned your title there, and I think Meyer has done so.
Now we're going to see some record levels, I think, that like beyond anything from Holla. Hey, look, we wondered who was Eric Holla going to try to bully with Marty Necas gone. The answer is nobody. He's been a non-factor, so it's up to Timo Meyer to take the.
He really has been a non-factor.
Yeah, not much there.
Yeah, over from Thomas, over under on the decibel level for Game 5 boos when Meyer hits the ice, 7,000 dB. Yeah, I think it's going to be
under, but I think it'll be high.
I think it's going to be loud. And then finally, we'll go home on this because Coop, I couldn't resist. From SB, Governor Cooper looks great in red. Wolf ?
This is for you, Joe.
Oh, there he is.
Oh my God!
See? Unlike the other Roy, he'll do.
Happy birthday, dude! Happy birthday.
I appreciate it, and shouts to our guy Elliot Avent, who swept Clemson.
A fellow Northern Nash Knight.
Your guy. Yes, yeah,
right.
He's he always finds a way. I went to that Duke series about a month ago, and I'm like, oof, this might be trouble. But since then, they found a way to beat Louisville, Cal, and now Clemson in series. So happy for NC State baseball. Luke will be in the building on Tuesday night. Coop, you are welcome back anytime you want, man. You just
I appreciate it.
You tell me the word. I know you were intimidated by Luke, not so much me. Not so much me. You're like Luke actually knows stuff.
Luke you're a great columnist, Luke. You really are. And I know how hard it is to write. Writing is, I'm a lawyer, and writing is an important part of what I do. And as governor, attorney general, writing can be very difficult, but you are able to master and capture things in a very entertaining way. And I have appreciated reading you over the years. And you're not afraid to call people out either.
Well, as someone who ran for youth governor and lost in Illinois and was enrolled briefly in law school, I know that politics and law aren't easy either, to the fact that I never followed through with either of them. So thank you. I appreciate that. You're welcome. I'll speak for the Joes. You're welcome to come up and join us on the 7th floor on Tuesday after the game. I'm pretty sure you can get anywhere in the building you want to.
He has a parking pass and a credential, sir.
Yeah.
Come on.
Joe set me up with credentials, so I'm ready to go now.
Do you have an OG Media Hurricanes credential?
Yes.
That is a collector's item.
It is that.
Thanks to our guy Joey. I can't take credit for that.
Well, I figured Joey would be the one bringing him up on the elevator, but that's the third Joey.
I don't have to worry about it being a conflict of interest anymore either. So
no, what conflict? No, I do need to give Luke a chance. And now you both have said nice things about each other, I need to give Luke a chance to enjoy our exchange from the other day, where you were like, I asked you how Boston Cambridge was going, and you were like, yeah, it's really different. And in my brain, I'm like, the Northern Nash, Carolina 1 time, Carolina 2 times, Attorney General, Governor. Like, have you left the state of North Carolina for more than like a week in your life? I'm just sitting here laughing at you, eating Chinese food in an empty apartment somewhere in Harvard Yard, just being like, what's the big deal? What? It's a little bit.
I went to church the other morning, and I introduced myself to the preacher, and she said, "You're from North Carolina." I said one sentence. She had no idea that I had been governor, but she identified me as being from North Carolina because her husband was from Statesville.
Oh, I thought she was just like a big
she knew
white
the accent. What's that?
I thought she was just like a big White Lotus fan.
Yeah, those accents weren't that great.
No, they were not.
They were okay.
They were not.
They were not afraid to paint Duke in a bad light. I just wish you would let your true colors show over there at Double Tar Heel. So we will
You
talk.
got
I understand one of
Wolfie out
the
of it. Isn't that the
one of
best
the
you're gonna do?
sons was an NC State guy. That's what I understand.
On the show or in what?
Just kidding, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding.
All right, here we go. Coop, appreciate you, man, and best of luck. Hopefully you'll find somewhere decent to eat and you'll start to assimilate to the Boston.
The Celtics are about to play right now and probably have already started.
You'll fit right in, then you'll be back. It'll be fine. We'll make it work. And Luke, thanks again. Appreciate you taking the time filling in for Joe. He was out celebrating his anniversary with Kelly, so happy for them.
Happy birthday to you. Governor, you got to go to Piccolo Nido in the North End. That's the hockey Italian restaurant. You tell him you're a Hurricanes fan, you'll be all set up.
I can't wait. Done and done.
All right, guys, we'll be back for Game 5. Appreciate you. Do all those things below, do all those things, whatever it is. Appreciate you guys for checking us out. And we're on to Game 5. We're back in Raleigh on Tuesday night.
Little drunken hour, hooting out the cloud. Welcome to our live stream, OG After Dark. Little drunken hour, hooting on the cloud. Welcome to our live stream, OG After Dark.